In 2022, while in conversation with someone and mention is made of the war, it is tacitly understood that the Russia-Ukraine war is meant. Much of the world was taken by surprise in February when Putin's forces made rapid advances into Ukrainian territory. Since then, the international dynamic has been reshaped as Russia experiences global sanctions, effectively isolating the country. Admittedly, despite the international reaction and ensuing turmoil, the conflict is rather limited in scope, being fought between a middle and minor power in the confines of Ukraine. The war to which we refer this year may have, however, been totally different in scope and effect, and even geographical situation. Emails leaked by the FSB insider Winds of Change indicate that Russia's Politburo 2.0 had been seriously preparing for a localized military conflict with Japan over the Kuril Islands in Russia's Far East. The FSB agent further claimed that confidence that the countries would enter the stage of acute confrontation and even war was high, which can be traced by the anti-Japanese spin on articles published by state media sources. Any text illustrating the Russo-Japanese relationship in the 20th and 21st centuries cannot be complete without discussing the geopolitics of the Kuril Islands. Situated on the western side of the North Pacific, separating the ocean from the Sea of Okhotsk, the Kuril Islands, known in Japan as the Northern Territories, are only 13 kilometers or 19 miles from the Japanese region of Hokkaido. Initially inhabited by the Ainu people, the Edo period of Japanese history saw a greater encroachment of Japanese administration, albeit nominal, over the islands. During the Second World War, however, Soviet forces occupied the islands, leading to an 80-year-long Japanese struggle for ownership, and is a leading reason preventing the formal closure of the Second World War between Japan and Russia. Winds of Change communicated Moscow's interpretation of the Japanese point of view in relation to the Kuril Islands. They claim, for Japan, there is a cornerstone of its modern geopolitics here. Its status as a World War II loser still prevents the Japanese from having an official military force, a foreign intelligence service, and a number of other things. For the land of the rising sun, the return of the Kuril Islands would actually mean a revision of its post-war status. Indeed, for a post-Soviet, weakened Russia, such a change in Japanese temperament would potentially compromise Moscow's interests in the Far East. To Russia, the islands have twofold importance. The first and most immediate concerns Port Vladivostok's access to the Pacific. The second and least apparent is the island's importance to Russia's Arctic security doctrine and prospects for a northern Russia shipping lane. The Kuril's strategic position was highlighted in Russia's Vostok 2014 military exercises in northern Russia, involving a defense of the Kuril Islands from an East Asian opponent supported by an ally, obviously hinting at Japan and the United States. Winds of Change supplied two reasons for a potential conflict in the Kurils with Japan. Firstly, in the wake of August 2021, with the American-supported regime in Afghanistan collapsing before a complete US withdrawal, the reputations of the United States military and Democratic Party were undermined in the public's eyes, irrespective of any US geopolitical game plan. As such, Moscow believed that the US could reclaim some credibility by launching a successful military operation in the Kurils, which coincides with the second reason. Moscow has noticed a particular tension between the US Democratic Party and China's President Xi Jinping, noted by the informant as being a key opponent. Moscow predicts that with Xi Jinping's re-election set for March 2023, US-China relations will deteriorate unprecedentedly by mid-2023, requiring steadfast support from Japan. To secure this, Winds of Change claims that the US would aid a Japanese invasion and victory in the Kuril Islands. Winds of Change stresses that this notion is conceived from Moscow's conviction that its neighbours want to attack Russia if, quote, they cooperate with the United States, intending that Japan's claims are crystallized in a treaty formally ending the Second World War. Russian state media activities at the time reflected this foreign policy initiative. Winds of Change links specifically to articles on how the USSR saved the world and Japanese biological experiments on Soviet citizens during the Second World War. The FSB timely released declassified material from the interrogation of Otozo Yamada, detailing plague-infested lice used to terrorize prisoners. The media spin had remarkable similarity to Russian coverage of the Ukraine Special Military Operation, depicting the Japanese as specialized in brutal biological experiments, having a disposition for Nazism and should have been demilitarized at the Second World War's end. Winds of Change finally points to the movement of Mi-8 MTR-1 electronic warfare helicopters to the Eastern Military District, but provides no further indications of a greater force build-up during the period. As Arctic geopolitics becomes ever more pressing, strategically located islands and seas will likely become hotter areas of interest. A receding polar ice cap opens more opportunities to exploit the Arctic, a point already recognised by Washington and Moscow. Such geopolitical considerations have already crystallised in disputes over maritime boundaries, such as the Baker-Shevardnadze Agreement, which Moscow has refused to ratify since the collapse of the USSR. Winds of Change still leaves questions, however. Namely, if their whistleblowing is accurate, why did Putin rapidly change his sights to Ukraine? Why do you think Putin changed his target? Leave your answer in the comments below. This is Anglicageopolitica. Thank you for watching.